The Tennessee Titans made a big splash in free agency, giving Dan Moore a 4-year, $82 million contract to be their franchise left tackle. But was it a good decision? I'm going to show you what I saw on tape in today's film breakdown from Tic Tac Titans. Titans fans, welcome into another film breakdown from Tic Tac Titans. I am your host, Tyler Rowland, 25 years a Tennessee Titans fanatic. I've covered the team for USA Today, Sports Illustrated, and hosted the #1 Tennessee Titans podcast, Locked on Titans, for 6 seasons. On today's film breakdown, we're going to take a look at Tennessee Titans free agent left tackle Dan Moore. The Titans gave Dan Moore a big-time contract after 4 seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's still only 26 years old, so still some ability to get better. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at Dan Moore as a pass blocker and as a run blocker. I'm going to go over the good on the tape and the bad on the tape in both areas, show you things I think Dan Moore can clean up and how he fits within the Tennessee Titans system. Before we dive into today's film breakdown, do want to thank you for checking out the Tic Tac Titans film channel. If you want year-round free Tennessee Titans film content to make you the smartest Tennessee Titans fan you could possibly be, you're going to find it here at the Tic Tac Titans channel. Also, make sure that you go over and check out the Locked on Titans podcast, which again is the #1 Tennessee Titans podcast in the world. But with that being said, make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed, throw a thumbs up on the video, throw a Titan up down in the chat. And with that being said, as we always do, let's step into the film room. I think that pass protection is the best part of Dan Moore's game. And I think ultimately that's why the Titans wanted to go out and get him, because he is a better pass blocker than he is a run blocker. And his best asset in pass protection is his length. Dan Moore has 34.5-inch arms. That is the #1 superpower that he brings to the table, because quite frankly, he's pretty average in almost every other area. And we'll go over that and look at that. But that length is going to allow him to win in so many different scenarios. And we see it here on display with our very first rep in pass protection, where his length is key, and it's against the best pass rusher in the NFL last year, Trey Hendrickson. So I'm going to let you guys see the rep here, and we'll go back through it. I know that's what you guys like. So good win against Trey Hendrickson, allows him to get the ball out. All right, so what I want to show you here is how this length can win. So Dan Moore gets first contact right here with Trey Hendrickson, who also has pretty good length of his own. And because he's able to make that first contact, he's able to get the early advantage in the interaction. All right, and Trey Hendrickson, who's really good with his hands, is going to look to cut down through Dan Moore's grip. But because Dan Moore's length is so special at 34.5 inches, and he's got great hands right now. We'll talk about his hands throughout the video, but his hands are inside the shoulder pads of Trey Hendrickson. Look, as Hendrickson comes down and tries to break that grip, he can't. And this is going to be critical for Dan Moore to become an even better version of the player that he is right now after 4 seasons. But look, his length and his grip inside of Trey Hendrickson's shoulder pads, so perfect. Look at that. Hendrickson didn't like it, but Dan Moore's letting him know, I whooped you on that one. And those sorts of reps are exactly how Dan Moore wins. We're going to see against Nick Bonito of the Denver Broncos right here as well. Bonito, really great player. I thought super underrated player and should be more well-known than he is. But look how Dan Moore wins with his length. Long, straight arm right there, okay? And I want to go back even further, because look how Dan Moore uses his hands, his punch. These are technique things that I think Bill Callahan can get even more out of with a guy like Dan Moore, who's still only 26 years old. But his left hand, his outside hand right here, what he's going to do is he's going to shoot it. And it's a fake shoot. It's like a pump fake in basketball. He's trying to fake out Nick Bonito. And Nick Bonito reacts to that. And what Bonito does is he's like, okay, you're shooting your outside hand. I'm going to make an inside move. But Dan Moore wants him to do that. And then he has his inside hand ready to go. He extends it, uses his length, controls the interaction, flushes Bonito inside, and ultimately gives Justin Fields a place to escape. So did you see that fake punch? Fake. You make an inside move. Now I'm right here on you. And look at my good base, good feet on the ground right now, good center of gravity, ass to the ground, and I'm ready, okay? Boom. You try to make your move. I reset, wash you inside. Now my quarterback can escape and pick up some yardage. All right, another guy here who has great length himself, great physical frame, Odafe Owe from the Baltimore Ravens. Look how he gets that first leverage, that first contact. Boom, inside the chest. Another guy with great length, but Dan Moore beats him there. Now, his hands are a little inside at first, but he makes that first contact, is able to adjust and reset in plenty of time for Russell Wilson to get through. It's a good rep showing the length there of how he can get to guys first because of his length. And if he has proper technique and his hands in the right place, which is not always the case, he can have wide hands at times. All right. And that's one of the things that I think Bill Callahan is seeing on tape. And he's saying, hey, he's got this length. He's got average feet. He's got average strength. If we can get him a little bit better with his technique, I think he could be a solid player for us. But the length is the start of it all. That is his number one asset in terms of what's great. And look, Latu from Indianapolis, the rookie from last year, has a great long arm move in the pass rush. And he tries to do it here. Look, long arm in the chest, control the leverage, drive the offensive tackle, and get into the quarterback's lap. But because of Dan Moore's length here, he's able to match that. And that long arm isn't able to do as much to Dan Moore because he can match that length. Rides him past, good completion. Now, I also think that Dan Moore is pretty good at picking up stunts. Now, there are stunt losses on his tape. Don't get me wrong. We're talking about an average starting offensive tackle, maybe even a little below average if you lined them all up from 1 to 32 at left tackle. He's probably like, 18, 20, somewhere in there, And so when I talk about these things, I'm not saying he's elite at them, but I think he's got pretty good awareness with stunts. I think he has a pretty good understanding of what teams are trying to do, and we see that here. I'm not saying that these are the best wins you'll ever see or they're super pretty stunt pickups, but he just has a good understanding of how to do it. So he makes first contact with the defensive end. Going to come in here. All right. He's able to slide inside with him. And look, Milton Williams, who just got a huge deal from Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, is going to slide outside. Look how he ushers the defensive end inside to 73, pushes him in, and then slides off to mirror Milton Williams. He's there. He's ready. Again, not the prettiest win that you'll ever see in your life, but he's there and he understood what the Eagles were doing, a team that likes to stunt a ton. So he knew exactly what to expect. Kansas City, another team that'll run some twists up front. All right, Dan Moore's ready for it. Look how he picks up the inside guy. Again, not the cleanest win you'll ever see, but the awareness. He's looking outside. This is a no-look pickup. He feels him with his inside hand. Look, his eyes are right here on him, but he feels with his inside hand. And once he feels it, watch him adjust his feet. Look how his feet are right here. How in the world? Boom. Left foot back. Then reset. Now I pick him up. I'm ready. A no-look stunt pickup. Was it the cleanest thing you'll ever see? No, but good awareness and good understanding right there. The Atlanta Falcons. And we're going to see the Falcons drop back right here. All right, and that's what Dan Moore's looking for. But once he sees that, what he's going to do is he's going to pinch inside because he realizes if they're dropping back right here, they're probably bringing more from the opposite side. No pun intended. So he squeezes down and slides down, and it allows the entire offensive line to go out that way. Now, Justin Fields goes Justin Fields. But see, once he sees him back out, now I'm squeezing in. I'm not just taking a step in, I'm squeezing all the way in. And now I have the most outside guy, which is what I should be. Everybody else is on the interior, sliding down there. Justin Fields has a decent little pocket here, but he's going to run this way towards this rusher. Again, this is week 1, but what are we doing? Why would we run at that guy? I don't know. Anyway, I just think that Dan Moore, while it's not clean all over the tape, he has a good understanding of picking up stunts, and he does it right there, too, against the Bengals. Eyes. Once his guy starts to move, he flips his head inside, slides in, picks it up, holds him off. Not a completion, but a good rep for Dan Moore. He also has the ability to move his feet here. I don't think he's got elite feet or anything like that, but they're good enough. They're average, And what he can do is he can use that to take defenders where they want to go. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I like. And it allows him to have a little bit of recovery ability too. Boom. See how he reset his feet right there? Quick step back. He's able to move his feet backwards. Some guys will lose balance. Boom. Snap right there. Bang. Now I'm recentered. See? Keep his butt low. Center of gravity. Low man wins. Hold him off. Good pocket. Quarterback can get rid of the ball. Get some yards. Using his feet to recover. Now, run your man pass. The Titans love this. The Titans are all about running the edge rusher past the quarterback. Bam. Bud Dupree isn't the fastest guy of all time, which we'll talk about the issues with speed later. But if he's not overwhelmed with the speed, Dan Moore has the ability to just run guys past the quarterback. Boom. And that helps use his length too. Taylor Lewan did this a lot in his career, which is a comparison that I'm going to make later on in the video in terms of how they win out there. But length is big, and the feet are just good enough. Lewan had better feet than Dan Moore. That's why he was a high first-round pick. He was a better athlete than Dan Moore. But the way that they win is similar. Okay, some of the issues with Dan Moore in pass protection, he gets beat inside quite a bit, and I think he's worried about guys who are overly speedy. Again, he's just got average feet. He can run guys by because he uses his length and the average feet to get that done. But guys who are really fast or just have a quick jump off the line of scrimmage can beat him inside because he's worried about that speed, so he can overset a little bit and get a little too wide. That's a technique thing that could get cleaned up, but we see it here. He just gets beat inside. Why are we lunging outside? Now, I will say this. You could say that maybe he expects Najee Harris to step up into this gap, and he is purposefully getting wide, and maybe it's a misunderstanding and something that I'm just not aware of. But I will say this. I'm showing you guys like 3 or 4 examples of the things that I've seen on tape. I can't go over every single rep of every example of everything that I'm showing to you. So I guess just believe me when I tell you, this is on the tape a lot. We see it again in the same game. Beat inside. Overset. Beat inside. By Khalil Mack, who's in his early 30s. I mean, he's not a speed demon out there. So, but the problem is he's beat inside because he is worried a little bit about getting beat with speed. And that can lead them getting beat inside even more. Because if someone's fast enough, they'll just cut that edge on him real quick. And I mean, look how fast it goes. Boom. Again, average feet. Good enough to do certain things, but, and here, and maybe with the slant that they're doing, this is purposeful. But, ooh, Matador defense. And he looks back like, uh-oh. And his guy's right there on him, you know? So I don't think, I think that they were trying to cut him off right there. But I don't think he wanted to miss that bad. Because now his guy's right there in the backfield trying to get to Justin Fields, and it's not a good play. So, and here we go. Josh Sweat on the outside. Speed rush. Wins with his hands, too. Sometimes he can be wide with his hands. He's on the outside. And when you are outside, not inside, your hands are more vulnerable, and he already doesn't have a strong punch. He already doesn't have super strong hands and power in his hands, so he can get beat when guys throw moves at him. We saw him win against Trey Hendrickson earlier with his length, but he loses a lot of these too, and that's how you end up leading the NFL in sacks, even though Russell Wilson and Justin Fields hurt you a little bit. Knocks his hand off, so you can see he knocks his hand down. Boom, now I don't have contact anymore. I've lost contact. And he's able to use his speed and get to the edge. So, again, led the NFL in sacks allowed. Same thing right there. Lost with the hands to Odafe Owe. Hand, club, knocks that outside hand down. Boom, now I can get to your edge and club you. Sack. Again, a lot of these Russell Wilson, Justin Fields situations are they hold the ball, but some of these are just losses by Dan Moore. Like right here by Myles Garrett. He just drives him because his hands aren't strong enough. He's beat because of the hands. They don't have enough power. He can't drive the guy back and hold him off. He just gets, powered through. And a big sack by Myles Garrett. Trey Hendrickson. And again, you could say, I really hate when people say, oh, well, he had 5 sacks out of 12 against Hendrickson and Myles Garrett. But, well, if your argument is that he only plays bad when he plays against good players, well, that doesn't make me feel a lot better. And you're going to play against good pass rushers every single week in the NFL. That's part of it. So he needs to clean up some of these technique problems with his hands. He's never going to have a strong punch. He's always going to be a guy who his punch isn't going to be able to slow people down. So he's going to have to be so good with his technique. Maybe Bill Callahan can get him there. And he's only 26. So maybe he turns into a better player with better coaching. The coaching on the offensive line in Pittsburgh, I have been told at least by people who follow the Steelers, is not the best. So maybe he'll be a better player than he has been. But he's certainly a better pass protector than he is a run blocker. And we'll talk about some of the run blocking stuff. All right, let's talk about Dan Moore in the run game. So, like I said, he's definitely a better pass blocker than he is a run blocker because he is more of a positional blocker as a run blocker than he is a drive blocker. So, to me, how I would explain that is a drive blocker is somebody who can actually physically drive somebody one-on-one out of a gap, out of a hole, move a man by themselves, win a leverage battle that's even, stuff like that. A positional blocker is a guy who I don't think can do that, but they can get in your way. They can win a leverage advantage that they have over another guy. They're just not strong enough or powerful enough to win. And again, I would compare that to Taylor Lewan. Taylor Lewan was never a power run blocker who could drive guys out, but he found ways to win because of his length, his athleticism, and his understanding of where he needs to be. And that's how Dan Moore can win for the Titans, and I would imagine that's what they saw. So we're going to see a little bit of a zone run here. Dan Moore is just going to set a front side kick out. This is again, Taylor Lewan did this a ton when the Titans were a heavy zone team with Derrick Henry and Arthur Smith and all of that. This was an easy block for him to execute. You just cannot let the guy drive you backwards. You cannot let them get through your face. Just get in their way. You don't got to drive the dude way far back to the sideline or anything like that. That's not required here. Just get in the way. And we're going to see the zone flow here and then a Warren cutback. But this is a block that the Titans have zone runs in their playbook. They're a varied run scheme team now. They have power runs, gap runs, zone runs. They have it all. But look how Dan Moore just uses his positioning, uses his length, and just kicks his man out on the front side. You don't got to do anything spectacular. Yep, just move. I mean, he literally doing that right there, watching this rep, that looks exactly like how Taylor Lewan looked. I like the high legs, the throw, the push. It just blows my mind, really. More front side kick out here. And this is a power run. Look, we got a puller. So we saw a zone run. Now we got a puller. And this could be J.C. Latham. Like, imagine this play with J.C. Latham. All right? And set the edge right here. Just don't let him cross your face. You don't got to drive him anywhere. Just don't let him cross your face. But look at Dan Moore. He pushes him upfield a little bit. I guess that's why Odafe Owe was a first-round pick and still isn't a consistent starter. But, yeah, front side, kick out, just set that edge. Penalty wasn't on him, so whatever. Like, these are the type of things. Now we have it against a defensive tackle, okay? Little drive, a little bit of a double team help there. But he doesn't, do anything spectacular. This isn't a pancake block. Just get in the way. Extend those arms, use your length, control your guy, give your guy a lane. These are not difficult blocks to execute. Not asking him to do a ton here. Now, the Titans do some double teaming at the line of scrimmage. And a lot of these times, you're going to have one guy who's going to go up to the second level, and then one guy is going to stay on the initial block. So being able to negotiate that and do stuff like that is going to be important. And there's a slant inside, so they move down. A little bit of a double team right here. And then Dan Moore's going to take a step up, and he's going to slide the linebacker out that way, which opens up a huge hole for Najee Harris. And these little toss sweeps, the Titans do some of this here and there in their playbook. So look at Dan Moore kicking out that linebacker. Now, Dan Moore is not very good at the second level, but if the Titans can get more of this out of him, easy line of scrimmage, Bengals slant the wrong way, throw him out the club, open up a hole for a touchdown. Another one here, snow game from Cleveland. Look, double team. Now, the Titans do this a ton. They do this a ton. I saw J.C. Latham do this countless times last year, where he's just hitting the hip, and the Titans practiced this so much. The red rectangle on the sled where the Titans would practice hitting the hip of the defender, this is technique stuff that Bill Callahan is seeing. He's saying, hey, I can make him a little bit better of a run blocker with technique. He hits the shoulder pad of this guy. And look, he executes it. But he hits the shoulder pad. If you hit the hip of this defender, you're going to get so much more movement and open up so much of a bigger hole. But again, he wins this, but it could be even better. Double team, climb up to that second level, cut a guy off. He's going to be asked to do that so much within the Titans run scheme. So much. Another one here. And he's taking it this time. Rather than climbing, he's the one taking it. So double team with the tight end. Right there. Now I have a leverage advantage, and the tight end has helped me drive you out of the hole a little bit. Now I'll just take you one-on-one and make sure that you don't cross my face. And that's Zach Allen, who had a really good year for the Broncos last year. But that's a nice hole by Dan Moore. He needs some help to clear out holes. It's always got to be a double team. But once he gets that drive with the double team, he can just use his length and his positioning to keep the defender out of the way. Down blocks. Now we're into a spot where I think the Titans are really looking at Dan Moore like, we know you can do this. Now, Dan Moore one-on-one head up with a guy with no leverage advantage, probably not going to win. Doesn't have the power, doesn't have the punch in his hands. But Dan Moore with a leverage advantage on a down block, now he can win on those and he can get some movement. Boom. Look, just push him. You already have the advantage, and it turns into a really nice run. So in these solo situations, if you can create an advantage, look, down block, and just hold him. Just hold him. You don't got to drive him back. You don't got to pancake him. You don't got to move him out here in some highlight film block. Just use your length and your positioning and create the seam that we need. The Titans are looking at that and saying, oh, we could use that. We could use that right there. Now come from the side, and see, this is what I mean. If you make this the hip instead of the shoulder, we're crushing this, dude. They get good movement anyway, but it could have been even better. Grover Stewart, good player. But those are the ways that Dan Moore wins in the run game. Again, he's not a great run blocker. I'd say he's just slightly below average in run blocking. But if Bill Callahan's able to help him with some of the technique stuff, he could turn into a better run blocker, which is what the Titans are probably expecting. Now let's talk about some of the issues that he has in run blocking, which are a big concern. On some of those front side kickouts that we talk about, where he's on the front side of things, sometimes he just misses because he wants to get his length on you. He wants to get his arms to you. That's his only advantage he offers, is that he has great length. He's average everywhere else. So he wants to get his hands on you. And when you have players like that, they have a tendency to lunge a little bit. And it can be subtle. But watch him lunge forward against Bud Dupree here. And then Bud Dupree sees that, uses that advantage against him. All right, first contact. And now he lunges for. Look at that. He's on it. Right now he's on his tiptoe. He's forward. And Bud Dupree gets his hands inside and yanks him down. Boom. Now I'm right on the guy. Now I make the tackle. Now I ruin the play. All you got to do is get in the guy's way. I didn't ask you to drive Bud Dupree. Just get in his way. There's no reason to be lunging forward and off balance. That's a technique thing that has to be cleaned up. Keep your feet under you. Got to be quicker than that. Again, that's Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is 33, going to be 34 or something. Getting beat with speed to the front side. You cannot lose the front side like that. You can't have a dude go right around you like that. Like, that's just, we got to be better than that. That can't happen. Another front side here. And this is a great rep because it leads us into the next thing that I'm significantly worried about, and it's his ability to sustain blocks. Look, he's in a decent position here on the front side kick out. But look how the dude keeps a long arm, gets through him, and then he's there to help on the tackle. He's not the one making the tackle, but letting the guy cross your face on a front side kick out when you have good position to start, can't have that. And here's the biggest issue, I think, of anything that I saw on his tape, and it's his sustain issues. Dan Moore can be in good position and still lose a rep really bad because he doesn't sustain. Again, the power in his hands is so limited that he just, even if he gets them on you and he's in a good spot, he could still lose. And this is an area where I think technique should help a ton if Bill Callahan can get him better. But I just don't know. I don't know. The front side, zone kick out, run him. He's doing so well. And then he gets too far out in front, can't keep the tight grip on him, and his guy sheds and makes an easy tackle. Like, that is a one-on-one loss. That play is ruined because Dan Moore wasn't good enough. He's not driving this dude out of the hole either. He doesn't have the power. And look, he's too high. This guy's lower. He's too high. It's too easy to lose the leverage battle with this kind of high stance. Easy play. Bad run, you know? All right. Now we're double teaming. And again, the inability to really drive guys off the line of scrimmage, even with a double team here. Look how high they are, though. That's not good. That's not good. Come on, Bill. You can do that. But he's one-on-one. Decent position right here. And watch this. Boom. Grover Stewart. Eat you alive. Like, he just doesn't sustain blocks. And it's all over the tape. And that's why I'm very unimpressed with him as a run blocker. He's not a very good run blocker. The Titans are going to have to use him in very specific ways that I thought we went over just a second ago. Like, that's how he can be used as a winning run blocker. But look at this. I mean, he's driving the guy and he still can't hold it. He just cannot sustain blocks. Shed, and he's right there to stop. All right. Also, this is less of an issue because whatever than the sustainment, but this is even worse. This is the worst part of his game probably, and it's at the second level. He's going to be asked to just cut off a backside linebacker here. Just get in his way. Just don't let him come over to the front side. Whoop. You have 34.5-inch arms. Not the worst feet. I mean, that's just bad technique. Like, what are we doing? Get lower. Get down in a stance. You're so high. He can just dip underneath your hands. That's, you know. Oh, man. It's not good. Not good in space. Out in space. Missed. And look, you could say, hey, this is a tough block. It'd be tough to get over there. But he's right here. You should be able to get a hand on him at least. And watch Dan Moore after the play. He's upset. Look, he's mad at himself. Dang. Damn. You know? So, and as a puller, do not ask Dan Moore to pull. Do not. Like, oh, man. Look how high that is. And the lunge. Like, this should be a good kick out. Bam. You kick him out. Make that block. You got him. You got him. It's a bad attempt. High. Super high. Why aren't you at his hip? Why aren't you lower? And lunging and falling. Like, ew. Geesh, man. So, those are the issues that I see as a run blocker. And again, definitely a better pass protector than he is a run blocker. Now, let's wrap things up with a conversation about Dan Moore as a whole and his role within the Tennessee Titans offensive line and going forward. All right, Titans fans, I hope you guys enjoyed that film breakdown on Dan Moore Jr., the Tennessee Titans' new franchise left tackle, whether we like it or not. Look, I want to have a conversation about Dan Moore in general, when Dan Moore signed the contract, I can admit that I was not very happy about the signing. 4 years, $82.5 million, $50 million guaranteed. In my opinion, Dan Moore is a low-end starter at offensive tackle or a high-end backup even. I think that he's probably somewhere from 18 to 36. You know what I mean? Like, he's just an average starting left tackle. But I do understand what the Tennessee Titans are trying to do. You shift J.C. Latham from being an average left tackle himself to being a very good right tackle. Then you put an average left tackle in the left tackle spot, and now you might be able to have good offensive tackle play, because last year it was disaster offensive tackle and then average left tackle. So now if you can get really good right tackle out of J.C. Latham, which as the number 7 pick in the draft, you better be getting a really good right tackle, one of the best right tackles in the NFL. And then if you just have an average left tackle, in theory, that should be an improvement. With Peter Skoronski in year 3, hopefully Lloyd Cushenberry back healthy. He's supposed to return and be ready in June before training camp. We'll see. I hope that's the case, though. Kevin Zeitler is still one of the better guards in the NFL, even though he's 35. So if you get good guard play, good interior play, average left tackle, really good right tackle, you should have a much improved offensive line. The thing is, again, as a pass blocker, Dan Moore can win with his length. If he gets better with his hand placement and his hand technique, he'll be even better. But he's never going to have the adequate pop and power in his hands. He's never going to be an elite guy with his feet. So he's never going to be a high-end pass protector for the Titans. Like, he's always going to be someone who they're going to have to probably give a little bit of help. But you're hoping J.C. Latham is locked down on the right tackle spot. And then likewise in the run game, he's never going to be a guy who's you're running behind him on the goal line. He's going to move people like he's moving bodies out there. That's just not going to happen. But J.C. Latham can do that. And Dan Moore isn't very good as a puller or very good in space, but J.C. Latham is okay in that. So if you ask Dan Moore to do the things that he can do, win on down blocks, hit a double team, and then get in somebody's way, like front side kickouts, I think he can be successful. I think the Titans can use him and be successful. So I'm not happy about the contract. I think Dan Moore is average at best, but with where the Titans are at, what's available on the free agent market, I understand why they did this. And hopefully J.C. Latham and Peter Skoronski can take the steps that they need to, and the quarterback play gets better, and that helps the offensive line look even better. So we have to hope for that as Tennessee Titans fans. The last thing that I want to say is I know I haven't made a video in a long time, guys. There are a couple of things that I want to speak out. Number one, I'm not kidding. I'm having technical problems. I need to get a new laptop. I have the money to do it. I'm just being lazy. I'll admit it. I'm procrastinating. I'm going to change to a totally different computer, totally different system, totally different. And I'm like, man, do I want to, do all of this stuff right now? But it's time to do it right now. And I'm hoping to do it here very, very shortly. Okay. I promise I will have it done before the start of next season. I guarantee it. But it's harder to make these videos with my current setup and how outdated that it is. The video, like, I literally cannot render the videos that I'm making because my computer can't handle it. So it's made it difficult. And I have had an insane start to the year on the personal side of things with all the things that I've had to do. I really wanted to dive into this channel in a major way this season. And then I got promoted at Locked On to the Locked On NFL. And then I got promoted in my day job type thing. So it's just been, I hate to vent to you guys about these things because I know you don't care. And so many people have probably clicked off, and that's fair. I don't take it personally. But I just say that to say I'm sorry about the break in film content. And hopefully here with Cam Ward coming in and the free agents, I'm going to have more videos coming this week, next week, and we're going to get this thing rolling and get ready to go and get back on track. So thank you so much for understanding the hiatus. This is a super long video to get you guys back on track, though. Let me know how you feel about Dan Moore down in the comments. But that's going to do it for today's film breakdown. Thanks for tuning in. Again, throw a thumbs up on the video. Throw a tighten up down in the chat. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. And as I tell you every time, tighten up.